It's me, Mario!
It's always bizarre to hear people claim that Super Mario 64 is only good when viewed through the lens of nostalgia. Not necessarily because I agree or disagree with the point, but because both perspectives are correct in their own way. Super Mario 64 is both a crucial part of its time and a treasure to be unearthed by anyone who wants to find it. It's almost necessary to understand the time and place it was released into to fully appreciate it, but so abundant are its tangible joys that anybody can be absorbed by its happy-go-lucky playground so long as they ignore the creaking hinges keeping the slides together. As worrying as the bits and pieces may be, those slides are just as much fun now as they were in decades past, and their significance as historical artifacts can be appreciated both in retrospect and from the perspective of the time they were first introduced. Those slides helped young people grow into who they became, helped them gain friends, and became important parts of their wistful observations of childhood. Likewise, Super Mario 64 helped comfort players in game culture at a rocky time in both their developments, and nowadays can be appreciated for what it did then, while also miraculously remaining the same jovial slide it's always been. Mario games are typically looked at as mindless fun, but I'm not sure that's entirely fair. Or at least, it isn't fair for the main games. While side games in the new series are typically nostalgia-laden trips through mundanity, the primary series of Mario platformers do regularly have something to say, even if it rarely goes beyond, "this thing sure is fun," whether that be water or gravity. Even though their narratives are flimsy and practically worthless, they're able to communicate their theses through nothing more than the mechanics, which is an admirable feat even if the statements themselves are far from intelligent. Super Mario 64 is the same way, but there is something else going on underneath that makes it intriguing as a work of supposedly frothy art. When the player first starts, it becomes apparent that the game is a gleeful look at the pleasures of 3D space and a tribute to how liberating it is to move without restrictions, even if just on a subconscious level. Why else does it start you in the most open and objectiveless area in the game? And as far as ideas go, it's not world-changing, but there's still the raising of a topic that doesn't usually get brought up in day-to-day life. Because 3D space is exciting and liberating, so even if it's not a compellingly contestable notion, it still elicits some new kind of understanding of the world we live in. Sometimes just running in a field can stir glee within us, whether it be in our reality or in a video game, and being aware of that is inspiring in its own little way. But that wouldn't be enough to hook players today, let alone in 1996, and this is where the importance of context comes in. The mid-90s were a pivotal time for the development of gaming. The PlayStation was out and trying to impress enough skeptics into buying into this new 3D thing, while games like Donkey Kong Country were proving that 2D game design was still in its prime and didn't have to change with the technology to work. Elegance and simplicity were the name of the 16-bit game, so why bother transforming something when the end result could be catastrophic? Still, some dared to dream of a fully realized polygonal environment instead of a flat-scrolling painterly art environment. But they had to get it right, because if not, the future of gaming would be compromised. Luckily, Nintendo knew what they were doing. Everything about Super Mario 64 is vibrant, bouncy, and alive. The way that Mario cries out on each of his jumps gives such a sense of jubilant whimsy that permeates the entire game, not only making it an enjoyable experience, but downright heartwarming in a childlike kind of way. This loving sense of sheer bliss, combined with the seemingly effortless execution on the part of the game, is what separates Super Mario 64 from its dismal competitors. Let me put it this way. In some alternate universe, the 3D revolution was led not by the iconic plumber, but by Bubsy the Bobcat in Bubsy 3D. In that universe, it's not unfair to say that 3D gameplay would have been entirely damned because of what a miserable introduction it received in the form of that game. The rigid controls, oppressively uninspired art, and dismal level design all accomplish the exact opposite of what Super Mario 64 does. Because Super Mario 64 is, more than anything, a reassuring essay on the future of gaming and the cultural evolution into 3D. If Super Mario 64 is the 3D doppelganger of Super Mario Bros., then its statement is basically the same, but the context makes it work for an entirely new age. Super Mario Bros. Came out at a time of industrial uncertainty, and its existence was the confirmation that video games would be around for a while. Even if the medium's future was uncertain regarding what direction it was going, it was undeniable that it was moving in a direction, though what lay at the end of the path was unpredictable. Super Mario 64 comments on a similar situation in the culture, where technology was becoming less restrictive and allowing for more experimentation in perspective and control. Nobody had figured out how to do it yet, though, so the future of gaming in this period was nearly uncertain as it was in 1985. That doesn't mean there weren't attempts, though. Crash Bandicoot was probably the closest in bringing two-dimensional philosophy into a three-dimensional space, and while that game is still a worthy piece of history, it often goes unnoticed how bold Super Mario 64 was to break so many rules of platform gaming convention to create entirely new ones. Non-linear level design, substantial health bars, and a cohesively created world from which to pick levels are elements that may have popped up here and there in other platformers of the time, but none of them gave us such a sense of fun freedom. It's so confident in executing all its parts that the whole elevates itself into something that is at once immediately legendary. It saw 3D and infused its core with the spirit of 3D so lovingly that its charms are only matched by just how much it works as a video game. It plays well, and thereby says that 3D games are fully capable of playing well. A reassuring message, but one that clearly comes from a wise place. Nintendo knew what they were doing, and to see masters take on new frontiers and conquer them so effortlessly is downright awe-inspiring even today. It proudly stood on the cliff top and showed everybody else how it was done in a way that is both smart and compelling, making it a pure-hearted example of the best of what video games can be. What makes it all work so well is that, if Super Mario 64 were dominated by either its intellectualism or its visceral qualities, then it wouldn't be worthy of being considered a great game. Giving your work a brain to accompany its heart is the key to making it really pop as a reactionary work, and giving your brainy ideas some much-needed life makes them flourish in ways that a straight delivery never could. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, and Super Mario 64 makes its dry truths succulent. Its existence justifies the need for 3D, and the cheer that it pairs with that fact shows that the future of video games was going to be alright because companies like Nintendo were still experimenting, searching for the next step in the evolution of this great medium. At this uncertain point in the future of video games, we can only look back and hope that somebody else can create the next Super Mario 64 and tell us all that things will work out. If any game can look to the future with the optimism and assurance that Super Mario 64 did, then maybe we'll have another legend on our hands. One thing is for certain though, Super Mario 64 is a truly great game.